Thank you, and very good morning. So, I wanted to start by telling you that I was a very avid science fiction fan in the 60s when I was a teenager. And I used to read books like by Ray Bradbury and Frank Herbert. And in my own lifetime, what shocks me is that what I thought was fiction has actually come true in my own lifetime, which means that the science fiction of yesterday is the science truth of today. So when I watch movies on Netflix like Extant, which has Halle Berry, or I watch Westworld, I imagine that that's the fiction of today, but it might be the truth of tomorrow. So I'm going to put on my futurist's cap, and it's not easy to do that because you have to kind of reimagine what the future might hold. I think Kumuda and I have something in common. Minority Report is also my favorite film. And to just give you a little background, Steven Spielberg consulted so many futurists when he made that film that they could have filled the entire Yankee Stadium in New York, that many. And what were the questions they asked? The questions they asked was, what will newspapers be like tomorrow? What will food be like tomorrow? What will transportation be like tomorrow? So when you look at brand communications, you have to kind of put it in a techno-social context where you can kind of plot where technology and society is going as well. Kumudo kind of preempted me. I was going to show you the same clip, but that's what it says. John Anderson, you could use a Guinness right about now. Or, why don't you try a Gap t-shirt right now? So I'm going to skip the clip, but when that film happened, I thought it was the future. But I want to tell you that I can actually think that it could happen to me as an Indian, because my government is sitting on the iris scans and biometrics of over 1 billion people. Were that data be made available to any marketer, I could be exactly like Tom Cruise, walking around and receiving messages because it has all my personal data in a sense. So I'll skip the thing, and what I get out of looking at the future is 5 points. One, that all communication is automated. When I was coming to Sri Lanka, I wanted to buy a cheap camera because I have a very expensive Nikon, and I thought my iPhone wasn't good enough to take pictures of Sri Lanka. So I went on Amazon and I started shopping for cameras. I regretted it. For a whole week after that, I was being bombarded by messages on Facebook saying, why don't you try this camera or the Sony or this one? And I was saying, gosh, I wish I hadn't gone to Amazon, because all that is being automated. And of course, it's personalized because I expressed a preference for a camera, and they know exactly a lot of data about me. They probably even know that I have a Nikon. And they probably also know that I have an iPhone because I bought both of it on Amazon. I think the third thing that I see as a growing trend is immersive. And immersive, I mean that, I think our first experience of immersive is really surround sound. I think is immersive, but I mean, we've traveled much further. So 3D displays, holograms, holographic stuff, or headset, haptics. When I wear my Apple Watch, which I'm not wearing today, I know a message is coming from that little ping I feel on my wrist. Haptics, gesture recognition, I think is very, very immersive, and both experiential. So I'm taking these 2 points together, in fact. And the big question that all marketers are asking today, which we couldn't answer yesterday, is, okay, I like this idea, but what's the ROI? Which means everybody wants measurability. We couldn't do that well enough with traditional forms of communication like advertising, but today, because we're living in the digital age, everything is measurable, and in fact, Some clients are expressing their dissatisfaction with how measurable it is, in spite of the fact that it's much more measurable than it was yesterday. So I see those 5 big trends becoming amplified when we look at brand communication tomorrow. The other thing is that, and one of my problems with looking at millennials is really that millennials is about demographics. At the end of the day, it is that people aged from X to Y belong to this group, and I think that's not good enough. When I just read that number, that 75% of the world's population is going to be millennials. Is that targeting? I think it's the universe. So, you're not pinpointing anything. How do I speak to 75% of the world's population? It's not a mass. And I think the problem with looking at it like that is, so I was going to come to Cambridge Analytica. That's all about psychographics. They're determining my polling preferences from the likes and the pictures and everything that I put on social media. So it's then from persuasion to unconscious manipulation, because advertising was always accused of being persuasive by the critics of advertising. But today we've reached a new level. It is manipulation and unconscious manipulation. I wanted to show you, and fortunately as human beings, we are recognizing that we are being manipulated. This is a Facebook ad. She says, Facebook just served me a bra ad where a woman is wearing the same outfit that I'm currently wearing. Fortunately, we're intelligent enough to know that we are being manipulated. And we spoke about chatbots earlier, but I never thought that we would reach an era where we had ad bots, which means bots are creating advertising. And currently, just 2 months ago, Emirates has been experimenting with ad bots. That ad no longer requires a creative director or a copywriter and an art director. It was totally made by a bot who has combinations of visuals and text. And the last point I want to make is technological singularity, which is the notion that there will be a tipping point when artificial intelligence will be smarter than man. So if you have to, on a Twitter research, it showed that most people expect this will happen by 2050. And I think the future of communication, therefore, will depend a lot on singularity. Thank you.